I never thought I'd be sitting on the edge of a hotel bed, watching my stepson emerge from the bathroom with only a towel wrapped around his waist. The air conditioner hummed in the background, but it did nothing to cool the heat rising to my cheeks. "Sorry," Jake mumbled, clutching his towel tighter. "I forgot to bring my clothes in." I turned away quickly, focusing intently on the hideous floral pattern of the wallpaper. "It's fine," I replied, my voice unnaturally high. "We're adults, right?" But we weren't just any adults. I was his father's wife. And now here we were, stranded in the middle of nowhere, sharing a hotel room with exactly one bed between us. 2 hours earlier, our car had made a terrible grinding noise before giving up completely on that desolate stretch of highway. No mechanic available until morning. No other hotels with vacancies for miles. Just this small roadside inn with exactly one room left. "I'll sleep on the floor," Jake offered, now fully dressed, leaning against the wall as far from me as the cramped room would allow. "Don't be ridiculous," I said, though everything about this situation felt precisely that. Ridiculous. Uncomfortable. Forbidden. I'm recording this confession because what happened that night changed everything. My marriage, my family, my understanding of desire and loyalty. Let me be clear. I never planned for any of this. I was happily married to Robert for 3 years. Jake and I maintained a respectful, if somewhat distant, relationship. He visited on holidays and occasional weekends. We exchanged pleasant small talk over dinner. That was it. But fate has a twisted sense of humor, throwing us together in this impossible situation. As night fell and the options for distraction dwindled, the conversation between us shifted into territory we'd never explored before. "Do you love my dad?" Jake asked suddenly, his eyes reflecting something I couldn't quite name in the dim light. The question hung between us, heavy with implications. And the truth that rose to my lips surprised even me. I should have known then that this night would unravel secrets I'd kept buried, even from myself. What I couldn't possibly have predicted was how completely one broken-down car would demolish the carefully constructed boundaries of our family. And what happened next? Well, that's where this story truly begins. I should probably introduce myself properly. Name is Lena Carter, 38, head nurse at Memorial Hospital in Charleston. I've been married to Greg for just over 3 years now. My second marriage, his third. When we met, I was drowning in medical bills after my mother's cancer treatment, and he was a successful pharmaceutical sales representative with a charming smile and promises of stability. Our relationship moved quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. 6 months of dating, a modest engagement ring, and suddenly I was stepmother to a college student who wanted nothing to do with me. "That's Aiden, Greg's son from his first marriage. He'll warm up to you," Greg promised when we got married. "Just give him time." But 3 years later, Aiden still looked at me like I was an intruder. Our conversations remained surface level, filled with awkward pauses and avoided eye contact. He visited less and less, preferring to spend holidays with his mother in Atlanta. So when Greg announced he couldn't take Aiden to his graduate school interview in Savannah due to an emergency business trip to Boston, I shocked us both by volunteering. "I could drive him," I offered during dinner. "It's only a 4-hour trip each way." Greg looked relieved. Aiden looked horrified. "You don't have to," he muttered, stabbing at his pasta. "I know," I replied, "but your interview is important." That's how we ended up on Interstate 95, in my aging Honda Civic, barely speaking for the first 2 hours of the drive. The radio filled our silence until it didn't. The first concerning noise came about 80 miles from Savannah, a rattling from somewhere beneath us. "That doesn't sound good," Aiden noted, finally breaking our silence. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "It's nothing. This car makes weird noises sometimes." 20 minutes later, the engine coughed, sputtered, and died completely. We rolled to a stop on the shoulder of the highway, surrounded by nothing but pine trees and gathering storm clouds. No cell service, no passing cars, no roadside assistance. "We should try walking to find help," Aiden suggested after we'd sat in silence for 15 minutes. As if answering him, the sky opened up. Rain pounded against the windshield, transforming the world outside into a blurry gray haze. Just when I was about to give up hope, headlights appeared through the rain. An elderly man in a pickup truck offered to drive us to the nearest accommodation, a roadside motel called the Pines Rest about 3 miles ahead. One room left, the receptionist informed us when we arrived, dripping water onto the faded lobby carpet. King bed, non-smoking. Aiden and I exchanged uncomfortable glances. Nothing else available? I asked. She shook her head. Hurricane warning got everyone seeking shelter. You're lucky I have nothing at all. We'll take it, Aiden decided, surprising me. The room key felt impossibly heavy in my palm as we trudged through the rain toward room 118. Have you ever found yourself making a decision that seemed innocent enough, only to realize later how completely it would alter your life? Drop a hat in the comments if you've ever been caught in a situation where one choice changed everything. Room 118 was smaller than I'd expected. The king-sized bed dominated the space, leaving just enough room for a rickety desk, a compact bathroom, and a narrow path to navigate between them. A faded landscape print hung crookedly above the headboard, and the carpet felt damp beneath my shoes. Well, I said, placing my overnight bag on the desk. This is cozy. Aiden stood frozen in the doorway, his shoulders nearly touching both sides of the frame. His eyes locked on the single bed. I can sleep on the floor, he offered immediately. I glanced down at the questionable carpet. And catch pneumonia? I don't think so. Then I'll take the chair. He nodded toward a vinyl armchair squeezed into the corner. That's ridiculous, we're adults. I tried to sound casual, despite my racing heart. The bed is big enough. We can share it without, you know. Aiden's cheeks flushed. Right? The silence between us stretched uncomfortably as we unpacked our minimal belongings. I placed my toiletry bag on the bathroom counter while Aiden checked his phone. Still no signal, he muttered. I should call the graduate program to confirm tomorrow's interview. Try the motel phone, I suggested. He did, speaking formally to someone on the other end. I couldn't help noticing how his voice had deepened since I'd first met him 3 years ago. How his shoulders had broadened. When did that happen? All set for tomorrow, he announced, hanging up. Interview at 2 p.m. Good, I nodded, suddenly fascinated by the contents of my overnight bag. I'm going to change. The bathroom was barely large enough to turn around in. As I slipped into my pajamas, cotton shorts, and an oversized t-shirt, I realized I hadn't packed with a shared room in mind. Greg was rarely home these nights anyway. Another pharmaceutical conference. Another late meeting. Another business dinner that left me eating alone at our kitchen table. When I emerged, Aiden had changed into sweatpants and a faded university t-shirt. He sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through his offline phone games. Do you mind if I take a shower? He asked, not looking up. Of course not. It's your room too. While he showered, I sat rigidly on my side of the bed, listening to the water run. My wedding ring caught the light from the bedside lamp, and I twisted it absently. 3 years of marriage, and Greg and I had somehow drifted into the roles of roommates who occasionally shared a bed. When did that happen? The water shut off. I quickly positioned myself under the covers, pulling the blanket to my chin. Aiden emerged in a cloud of steam, his hair damp and tousled. Better? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Much. He hesitated at the edge of the bed. Which side do you prefer? I'm already here, I pointed out. He nodded and carefully lowered himself onto the opposite side, maintaining as much distance as possible. The mattress shifted under his weight, and I felt myself rolling slightly toward the center. We both pretended not to notice. Good night, Lena, he said formally, reaching to turn off the lamp. Wait, I blurted out. Can we leave it on? Just for a little while? In the warm yellow light, I could see his eyes studying my face. Are you afraid of the dark? No, I admitted softly. I'm afraid of the quiet. The storm intensified outside, rain drumming against the window like impatient fingers. Thunder crashed and the cheap motel lights flickered once, twice before steadying again. Do you think the power will go out? I asked, my voice sounding unusually loud in the small room. Aiden shifted slightly. Probably. These old places rarely have decent generators. We lay there, 2 strangers connected by a man neither of us seemed to know anymore. The silence between us felt different now, less awkward, more contemplative. Can I ask you something? Aiden's voice came softly through the darkness. Why did you marry my dad? The question caught me off guard. Have you ever had someone ask you something so direct that it forced you to confront a truth you'd been avoiding? Drop a at if you've experienced that moment of unexpected clarity. I thought I was in love, I answered honestly. He was charming, stable. After my divorce and my mother's illness, he felt safe. Safe, Aiden repeated. That's not exactly passionate. I turned to face him, propping myself up on one elbow. What about you? Why are you pursuing architecture when your father keeps pushing you toward business? His profile was illuminated by the bedside lamp. Strong jaw, straight nose, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Because I want to build something that lasts. A pause. Unlike my father's marriages. The bitterness in his voice was unmistakable. You resent him, I observed. Wouldn't you? 3 wives in 15 years. A son he sees twice a year if I'm lucky. Aiden finally turned to meet my gaze. He missed my high school graduation because he was on his honeymoon with wife number 2. I flinched. I didn't know that. There's a lot you don't know. He sat up, his back against the headboard. When he married you, he promised things would be different. Family dinners, holiday gatherings, a real relationship with his only child. And then he went right back to his usual patterns, I finished. Aiden nodded. Exactly. A flash of lightning illuminated the room, followed by a crash of thunder that seemed to shake the walls. The lamp flickered and died, plunging us into darkness. Perfect timing, Aiden muttered. In the dark, voices feel closer, more intimate. Secrets emerge more easily when you can't see the other person's reaction. I'm lonely, I confessed, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. In my marriage, in that big house, all the time. The mattress shifted as Aiden moved. I couldn't see him, but I felt him closer now. He leaves post-it notes instead of having conversations, I continued. Yellow squares with working late or business dinner scrawled across them. I can't remember the last time we had dinner together. That sounds like him, Aiden said softly. I thought marriage would be different. I thought. My voice caught. I thought I wouldn't feel so alone. His hand found mine in the darkness. A gesture of comfort, nothing more. But the warmth of his fingers against mine sent an unexpected current through my body. My mom felt the same way, he said. Before she found out about the affair. The word hung between us. Affair. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone lit up on the nightstand, casting an eerie glow across the room. A text message. It's probably Greg wondering if we made it to Savannah, I said, reaching for it. But it wasn't from Greg. It was from Diane, my coworker at the hospital. Lena, I don't know how to tell you this, but I just saw Greg at La Maison with a woman. They were intimate. I'm so sorry. Call me when you can. I must have made a sound because suddenly Aiden was beside me, reading over my shoulder. His body went rigid. That's Jessica Porter, he said, his voice hollow. His executive assistant. The room seemed to shrink around us, the air thick with shared betrayal. In the glow of my phone screen, I could see Aiden's face, the muscle jumping in his jaw, the hurt in his eyes. He's doing it again, Aiden whispered, just like he did to my mom, just like he did to Rebecca. And suddenly, we weren't stepmother and stepson anymore. We were 2 people wounded by the same man, stranded together in the dark. I sat motionless, my phone clutched in trembling fingers. The photo Diane had sent showed Greg and his assistant at a corner table, his hand covering hers, their faces close enough to share breath. There was no mistaking the intimacy. Are you okay? Aiden asked, though the question seemed absurd. Neither of us was okay. 3 years, I whispered. 3 years of making excuses for him. He's building his career, he's providing for us, that's why he's never home. A bitter laugh escaped me. What a fool I've been. Aiden moved closer, his weight causing the mattress to dip so that our shoulders touched. You're not a fool. He's just good at lying. Trust me, I've watched him perfect the skill my entire life. The darkness wrapped around us like a cocoon, sheltering our raw emotions from the harsh light of reality. In that moment, it felt like Aiden was the only person who truly understood the depth of my pain. I should have seen it coming, I said. The late nights, the weekend conferences, the sudden interest in his appearance. My voice broke. New cologne. Who buys new cologne after 15 years of wearing the same brand? A man who wants to impress someone new, Aiden answered softly. His arm slid around my shoulders, a gesture meant to comfort. I should have pulled away. Instead, I leaned into him, my head finding the hollow between his shoulder and chest. His heartbeat was steady beneath my ear, unlike mine. which raced erratically. What am I going to do? The question wasn't really meant for him, but he answered anyway. Whatever you want. For once in your life, you get to choose what happens next. His fingers traced small circles on my arm. No more living for someone else's approval. When had he become so wise? The boy I met 3 years ago had been sullen, resentful. This man holding me spoke with quiet conviction that resonated in my chest. I never meant to be your stepmother, you know, I confessed. I mean, I knew Greg had a son, but he barely mentioned you. Then suddenly we were married and I was supposed to be some kind of maternal figure. Aiden's laugh rumbled through his chest. You're only 16 years older than me. I never saw you as a mother figure. No? I looked up, trying to make out his features in the darkness. No. His voice dropped lower. Definitely not. Something in his tone made my breath catch. His hand moved from my arm to my face, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized I'd shed. What did you see me as? The question emerged before I could stop it. The silence stretched between us, filled with unspoken possibilities. His thumb traced the outline of my lower lip, and I knew I should pull away. This was Aiden, my stepson, Greg's son. This was wrong in every conventional sense, and yet I couldn't move. The first time I saw you, he finally said, was at that holiday party. You were wearing a red dress, laughing at something someone said. My father was across the room, not even looking at you. But I couldn't look away. I remembered that party. Remembered feeling invisible as Greg networked with colleagues. You've been married to my father for 3 years, Aiden continued, but he's never been worthy of you. Never truly seen you. His forehead touched mine. I've seen you, Lena, every time I visited, every awkward family dinner. I saw how your smile never reached your eyes, how you flinched when he dismissed your opinions. Aiden, I whispered, a warning and a plea. Tell me you haven't felt it too, he murmured. This connection between us. Tell me I'm imagining it. I should have lied, should have pushed him away and maintained the boundaries that defined our relationship. Instead, my hands found their way to his face, tracing the contours I could barely see. You're not imagining it, I admitted. But we can't. Why not? Because of him? The man who's betraying us both? His logic was dangerously compelling. Or maybe I just wanted to be convinced. What happens in this room stays in this room, he whispered. One night to be honest about what we want, what we feel. Have you ever stood at a moral crossroads, knowing the choice you wanted to make was forbidden? If you've ever been tempted to cross a line you knew you shouldn't. His lips hovered just above mine, waiting for permission I shouldn't give. I gave it anyway. His kiss was tentative at first, a question rather than a demand. My mind screamed warnings while my body responded with an intensity that shocked me. This was wrong. This was inevitable. This was both at once. We shouldn't. I whispered against his lips, even as my fingers threaded through his hair. I know, he agreed, his breath warm against my skin. Tell me to stop. But I couldn't form the words. The storm outside matched the tempest within me, lightning illuminating our faces in brief flashes, thunder drowning out the sound of my conscience. Years of loneliness had hollowed me out, created empty spaces this forbidden connection rushed to fill. His hands traced patterns of reverence across my skin, as if memorizing every curve, every sigh. You're trembling, he whispered. I'm afraid, I admitted. Of me, of this, of tomorrow, of myself. My fingers traced the line of his jaw, of how much I want this despite knowing better. His eyes held mine in the darkness. For once in our lives, let's choose ourselves instead of him. The weight of his words settled over me. Greg had taken so much, my confidence, my joy, my belief in love. Would I let him take this moment too? I made my choice in silence, pulling Aiden closer until there was no space left between us. No doubts, no hesitation, just the quiet revelation of skin against skin, breath mingling, hearts racing toward the same dangerous destination. Time became fluid, measured only in sensations, the press of lips, the brush of fingertips, the soft gasp of discovery. Outside our room, the world continued its ordinary rotation. Inside, we created a universe of our own making, governed by different laws. I've thought about this, Aiden confessed against my neck. About you. More than I should. His honesty undid me. No one had wanted me so openly, so completely, in longer than I could remember. Not even my husband. Especially not my husband. Guilt sliced through pleasure like a cold blade, not guilt over betraying Greg, but guilt for not feeling guilty enough. For finding liberation in this forbidden embrace rather than shame. Stay with me, Aiden whispered, sensing my momentary retreat. Stay here, at this moment. And I did. I surrendered to the current pulling us both under, to the sweet oblivion of being truly seen, truly wanted. Every touch erased years of neglect, every kiss rewrote my understanding of desire. We moved together like dancers who had somehow always known the steps, finding rhythm in chaos, beauty in transgression. My world narrowed to the space between heartbeats, to the whispered words against my skin, to the rising tide we couldn't fight any longer. When release came, it was accompanied by tears I couldn't explain. Joy, grief, freedom, fear, all mingled together like watercolors bleeding into each other. Lena, he murmured, his forehead pressed against mine. Are you okay? I nodded, unable to speak, overcome by the magnitude of what we'd done. There will be consequences tomorrow. Repercussions. Reality would intrude with the morning light. But in that moment, cradled in Aiden's arms as the storm gradually subsided outside, I knew with absolute certainty that nothing would ever be the same again. We had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed, broken something that couldn't be repaired. And somewhere beneath the weight of that knowledge, I felt something unexpected blooming. Relief. Morning arrived with harsh clarity, sunlight streaming through threadbare curtains. I woke first, momentarily disoriented before the weight of Aiden's arm across my waist brought everything rushing back. My body tensed as memories flooded my consciousness. Beside me, Aiden stirred, his eyes opening slowly. For a moment we simply looked at each other, neither speaking, both aware of the invisible line we had irrevocably crossed. Hi, he finally said, voice rough with sleep. Hi, I echoed, pulling the sheet higher around me. The intimacy of night felt different in daylight, more complicated, more real. I sat up, running fingers through tangled hair. Regrets? Aiden asked quietly, watching my face. I considered the question carefully. Not about last night, I answered truthfully. But about the situation? The mess we're in? Yes. He nodded, understanding the distinction. The mechanic should be able to fix the car today. Such an ordinary statement after such an extraordinary night. It highlighted the reality waiting for us beyond this room. Aiden's interview, my marriage, Greg's betrayal, our shared secret. What are we going to do? I asked. The question encompassing far more than our immediate plans. Aiden sat up beside me, his shoulder brushing mine. About my father? About everything. He was quiet for a moment. I can't tell you what to do about your marriage. That's your decision. But I can tell you that last night wasn't just physical for me. My heart stuttered. It wasn't for me either. Then perhaps that's our starting point. His hand found mine above the covers. We can't undo what happened. I'm not sure I would even if I could. People would judge us, I whispered. They wouldn't understand. Maybe they don't need to. He squeezed my hand. Not yet, anyway. We dressed in silence, packed our few belongings. The ordinary actions felt strangely ceremonial, closing one chapter, beginning another. At the door, Aiden paused. Whatever you decide about Greg, about us, I want you to know that last night showed me what it feels like to truly connect with someone. I won't forget that. I reached up, touched his face one last time in the privacy of our temporary sanctuary. Neither will I. As we stepped outside into the bright morning, our future remained unwritten. But one thing was certain. The breakdown that had forced us to this motel had broken down more than just my car. It had dismantled the careful walls between us, revealing a truth I couldn't ignore. Have you ever experienced a moment that changed everything? A point of no return that altered your life's direction? Share your story in the comments below. Because sometimes the most unexpected detours lead us exactly where we need to go.